I'm Jonathan Colopy. I'm an executive director with the Y of San Diego County. Welcome to Y Be Well podcast. I am so excited about our guest today. He is a fan favorite of the hit show Top Chef, an alumni of several seasons, a restaurateur, food creative. Angelo Sosa is in the house. Angelo.
Jonathan, I like that baseball announcing style of intro.
And well, you recognize where that comes from. I appreciate that.
Yeah, most definitely.
So, Angela, I heard, hot news that you just came back from New York. You've got a number of different things going on, but did I hear correctly? You were just on Good Morning America?
Yeah, so I guess that's like fresh off the press, right?
That
Uh,
is.
yeah, I was in New York City for the last week, had some phenomenal dining experiences. So I was like super inspired.
Mm.
Um, And then I was not only cooked at GMA on Monday, but I, in fact, a lifelong dream. I cooked for the James Beard Foundation. We did a dinner in New York City as well. So pretty amazing weekend.
Wow, that's fantastic. If you will, for those that may not know, give context for the James Beard Foundation.
Oh, wow. Uh, James Beard Foundation is a hospitality um, foundation which supports equality, equity, and just promotes the industry's voice. So it's a very prominent figure in the hospitality world.
Excellent. Thank you for highlighting that and also the work that you're doing with that foundation. I also heard that you have a new restaurant, Himbara, if I'm saying it correctly.
You said it perfectly. That's right.
But you have to give the meaning of it because I heard the meaning of it and I go, wow, that is so cool.
Well, Jonathan, I didn't even ask. Do you cook? Do you like to cook?
I really enjoy eating.
Okay.
And my daughter cooks a lot, my wife cooks a lot, and I appreciate what they offer.
Okay. So maybe that's a no, a flat out.
Yet to be discovered.
Okay.
Wait, so going kind of backwards in time, you are this celebrity in the world of the food industry, and yet I'm curious how you got started on this journey. Did you always, as a young child, think this was my destiny, this was my vision? How did this path appear?
Wow. Great question. First of all, I will answer the question. Kimbara is a Malay word to seek and discover.
Yes.
Right. So then now I'll fast forward to the question you just asked. So it all began, I grew up in a small little humble town in Durham, Connecticut. And, a town of 5,000 people, we had chicken farms, fresh milk delivered to your door. So it's very, very humble town to grow up in and really amazing. So I'm half Dominican, half Italian. My father was very machismo, very militant, and he did all the cooking in the home, right? So, my weekends were not, playing kickball, flying kite, watching cartoons. It was 5 a.m. on the dot in the garden, tilling the ground, pruning the fruits, feeding the compost, harvesting, the produce, all of the above, right? So so basically in a we had a big family, right? There's 9 of us, including my dog Chi-Chi, so not
Uh,
10. um, and my father, we would cook Saturday in preparation for our Sunday feast, right? We would, my father do the cooking, and I essentially was a sous chef. Long story short was this: my major job was to clean rice in this elongated wooden bowl, right? It had almost like floor-like weathered texture to it, and I would go grain by grain by grain by grain. Little did I didn't know, I didn't enjoy this. I'd rather be watching a cartoon, but my father was just like walking behind me, almost like a prison guard, just, really making sure the rice was 100% clean. Little did I know, fast forwarding in life, that, he was teaching me about the details and about precision. And it really helped my career because I was able to work in 3 Michelin star restaurants spanning all over the world. And all of those details and be able to be comfortable in that environment, tense environment, really paid off in the end. So.
You were really brought up, literally ground up in the industry. And also, as you spoke of, your father and his tutelage or mentoring, it offered, it sounds like, a true appreciation of the food industry, where food comes from, the ingredients, and the details of the preparation. What a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, that's actually an incredible point. I mean, that you're absolutely right. From gardening to feeding the compost to all of that, right? It was, yeah. Now that I think about that more and more, that part, he was definitely grooming me as well. So.
Yeah, and what's interesting is you were drawn to it. Some people, that, as you said, a militant or authoritarian figure saying, watching over you, kind of over your shoulder. Some may go a different direction and say, but you really developed an appreciation and obviously a very successful career as we speak. I'm curious. You had shared you were in New York trying out these incredible restaurants, and it made me think about what inspires you. I mean, you come up with various restaurant concepts. You come up with these food creations. Um, what is what is that inspiration? Where does it come from?
Yes, I love the question. So thank you. I mean, creation, for me, it's when I'm connected to myself, I create, right? So for me, inspiration. So when I'm connected to myself, right, then things like sunsets, going to meditation garden, just being in nature. I randomly, and this might sound a little strange, um, I sometimes, not sometimes, many times I'll think about dishes and I'll dream about, not think about dishes, dream about dishes in my sleep and really compose a whole dish. And many times in my career, I've literally made exactly what was in my dream. And those are really probably the most profound and divine dreams and dishes that I've made. So a lot of times dreaming.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Our program, the Why You Be Well podcast, is really about mindful living, living well, and I love what you're speaking to in terms of taking inspiration from nature, connecting to things mindfully. Your dream work in terms of the creation. I mean, it's truly beautiful.
Yeah, and I love that aspect of your podcast. For me, my mindset, mindfulness, and well-being, right? Like even tying that into food, we are what we eat. So we also have to be mindful of ingesting beauty, right? And feeding our spirits, right? So that when we're connected to spirit and source, we're able to just, be, right? Which is very powerful.
Yes, truly. I mean, it's spoken of that it just this moment is where we have the opportunity to be, and that's mindful when we capture that. Sometimes we're, reviewing or foreshadowing, but to be present in this moment. And I would think in the food industry, you are really charged with being present in the moment as you're creating. I was watching the clip of you cooking on Good Morning America, and just in the moment, sprinkling and just kind of doing your magic. It was just, again, being present in creation. So it was really cool to see.
It's really, creativity is important to me, but being present is super important to me. And I really love this concept. In Kambara specifically, one of our ethos and mantras that we live by, and as part of the culture we built, is a Japanese mantra called Ichigo Ichie.
Hmm.
And essentially that word means that this moment, and if you apply it, you could apply it to anything in life, but apply it to service and hospitality, that when the guest comes in and we greet them and we experience this and we embrace them, that moment will never happen again. So that is our moment to create something divine, profound, and build that like karma into the experience, right?
What a great ethic. And I think about how that can be applied everywhere in life. Just when you walking down the street and you greet somebody with a smile, that moment is just that moment. It will never be repeated. But to mindfully, be present and engage that moment. I like that a lot. I want to go back to just, the experience of Top Chef. I think people would want to know what the competition was like for you. It seems pretty intense. And so, being successful on that show obviously created a wonderful following. People really follow you and seek what you're doing in restaurants and in food. But what was the competition like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think well, for me, it was like continuing education, like, right, going to Harvard, MIT, Stanford, wherever. It was really, you're competing against the best, right? And you're able to really, if you're able to be present, right, to what you're receiving, like, not only are you doing, but you're also, I was just learning so much, right? I was learning and absorbing all their energy and creativity. And from that perspective, it's really magical, right? And I think, where some of the challenges are, I think it's very, I don't want to say it's a mind game. You have to be mentally strong to
Mm,
survive.
mm,
I don't know if always the best chef, wins per se. It depends on
sure.
by winning. Because a lot of it is very mental. It's a mental game. Waking up at 2 a.m. and working, 48 hours straight, and then going into interviews, right? Like there's a point of where you just have that mental fatigue, right? So I think a lot of the game, not the game, a lot of the competition is, you know, being mentally aware and mentally strong.
Yeah, I appreciate the distinction that you're making, Angelo, in the sense that it's not necessarily just who has the skills to be a talented chef or the top chef, but it's mediating all of that with the intensity and the pressure and the time. And so that's a good pickup in terms of the mental strength that come through that.
Mm.
I
But
was
that's like
thinking,
anything in life, right? If you're a professional
yes,
athlete, it's Kobe Bryant, right? So he was in the gym at, 7 a.m. Then he was back at 1. Then he was back at 5. He was, like it's that takes resilience, right?
most definitely, most definitely. I'm curious, Angelo, in terms of how you feel the show Top Chef and also the Netflix series The Bear have maybe influenced the industry.
Hmm. That's an interesting question. So, I mean, I think Top Chef greatly. I'll just focus on Top Chef specifically. Helped, um, obviously not in that competitive setting. So the viewer could root for their players, right?
Mm,
Metaphorically, right? And build like community subgroups, right?
yes.
It's like, and then from the competitive side, from our side, it's like, um, our the producer side, I'm sure it allowed maybe chefs, reward chefs for working hard in good restaurants,
Mm,
and then maybe also reward chefs that, a different means of getting more exposure that might have not gotten exposure, right?
mm,
The bear, interesting. I think, as we talk about wellness, maybe a sub message of the bear is about wellness,
mm,
right?
yes.
Like there's, in order to have, light, you have had to experience darkness. You know what I'm saying? Invite, right?
Definitely, definitely, I can appreciate that. Yes, because it was exemplified in the experience there.
That's right.
Um, I wonder also, one of the takeaways that I had from it goes back to something you mentioned earlier. For me, perceiving food as art and the level of investment in that serving of food. I would see just finding these different ingredients throughout town, fresh, and putting them together, and then in the preparation, it's only used for just like a moment, and then the flour. I mean, it's just the level of intentionality and detail and sourcing and the time involved,
Yeah.
and it is just to, I shouldn't say just, but it is to create this offering. And I just, speaking to creativity and art, it was just like I was blown away by that. I didn't have that appreciation previously.
Yeah. Well, that's actually an incredible perspective because I'll even draw it out a little bit differently. So, we're opening, right, a restaurant in Indian Wells, with the Hyatt, right? And we're building these two beautiful restaurants. So, to get to that point, which is in mid-May, dishes, in fact, were created, I would say almost 8 months to a year prior, but it goes through this process of, and this is why I travel a lot to see, to get inspired, right? Because, a lot of my cooking is global, a lot of it is Asian. So I really want to be very respectful towards the culture, but also interpret it in a way that is transcending and transforming, right? Um, what was my point here? Because it was so juicy.
No, just how elaborate. I was talking
Oh,
about preparing a entree or a serving, and you actually broaden that
that's
perspective.
right. That's right. I'm sorry, I get so passionate about this. So yeah,
No,
it's like traveling, getting inspired. Then we go to the laboratory. We go to the laboratory. A lot of the dishes go through this stage of, making them 5, 6, 7, 8 times until because now we have to think as if we're in the space. So that you talk about intentionality, and that's just everything that we do is with intention and thoughtfulness, right?
yeah. Uh, I'm curious how do you what's your marker personally, professionally for success, or what gratifies you as you're along this journey?
Well, if you were to say to me, you have only one word,
Hmm.
I would say the first word that will always come to my mind when you say success equals the word is humility.
Hmm. Hmm. That's an interesting concept that you've brought forward. I'm going to ask you to expand that a little bit.
Yeah, I think. Hey, again, to the root of the question, people define success differently, right? My
Yeah.
my my understanding and my viewpoint is that for me, the attractiveness in a human being is when you're humble within and you're content within, right? So when you reach the success, it's not something of flaunting per se, right? It's more of that maybe it could be a self-affirming, but it's just how you graciously handle that and the gentleness of that. I think there's real beauty in that.
Yeah, I would just say, to me, this is an expression of that success. You were on Good Morning America, Cooking at Google, James Beard Foundation, and I get to have you as a guest on the Wise podcast. So
Ew.
you are very successful in my eyes and yours. I wonder what you'd offer in terms of advice or guidance to someone coming up in the industry currently who's interested in a similar pursuit.
I love that. So I think a couple things is you have, and I say this, and I've changed my approach a lot in regards to leadership, right? And I'm willing to be hungry for others if they are willing to be hungry for me metaphorically or for the vision, right? So I think first and foremost, you have to be relentlessly hungry.
Yeah. Excellent.
You have
Excellent.
to be hungry. Um, my second one would be anything is possible. All that matters is you have to believe.
Hmm.
So if it's be intentional, if there's not a position, create the position, create the opportunity. The opportunity creates opportunity. So through hunger and being relentless and driven and intentional, create.
Yes. Yeah. What I'm hearing is this is how you've been successful. You've been relentless in pursuing your passion, and you've manifested as you continue to move forward.
Yeah, Jonathan, and here's the thing is the relentlessness isn't straight. The commitment isn't straight. There's doubt. There's significant failure. There was a point in my career where I became homeless. Right? There was you know what I'm saying, where I lost
Yeah.
everything. Next thing you know, I'm sleeping on the floors of my restaurants and nobody's knowing. Like the path is you have to be persistent,
Yeah.
right? And you have to believe in yourself and that vision. And it's very hard when maybe others don't believe, but they don't have to believe because it's not their life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate your transparency and sharing your journey because people could just say, Angelo Sosa, Top Chef, what an incredible success, and just not know the path that you've taken. So to speak of the doubt comes up, insecurity comes up, challenges come up. and you have continued your pursuit beyond all that. So what's next in your pursuits in your career?
What am I doing, or what are my goals?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're opening. We've partnered with my business partner and I. We partnered with the Hyatt Regency in Indian Wells. They're converting that hotel into a beautiful Grand Hyatt, and the renovations in general are stunning and gorgeous. And I think, well, I know, we really want to build that Coachella Valley into, enhance being a culinary oasis. So we're pretty hungry for like a Michelin star. We think we could get it. We have beautiful produce and product here, and we have a very complete vision. So super excited. We'll
Love
go
it.
a Michelin star, a James Beard Award, and more importantly, what I'm focused on now is this concept of a living legacy. So building an environment, building a team, building a culture that I could impart wisdom, knowledge. Though I do believe you know, there's times in our life that we all can't bear each other's cross. So sometimes it's okay if you learned a lesson and it's hard. As I was homeless, I had to learn that, in that moment I stopped drinking. I probably minimized the stupidity in my life, but I really cut out all that low frequency and really started focusing on what is the vision of my life? Why are these things important? And what am I willing to do to accomplish these things? So.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love what you've brought through, the wisdom that you've acquired along the way. My last question for you, because as I mentioned in the beginning, this is Be Well, and I always like to know from our guests what is important to them and how they live well, be well. What is an important part of their well-being practice that they might share?
Well-being practice,
Yes.
laughter,
Ah,
laughter. I think there's a significant difference of being childish and childlike.
hmm.
We talk about, and I say this word, with no religious intent, like being Christ-like is just being joyous. I believe that we're put on this earth for abundance and thriving versus suffering. Um, oh Lord,
Ah,
yeah.
that's beautiful. I think of my hit of that is laughter to me is joy. And my mom always used to tell me, and I took this from her, that joy is love in action. And so beautiful expression.
Mm. But I believe in waking up in the morning in gratitude, right? So when you talk about a practice of I do meditation every day. So waking up in complete gratitude and creating the presence and the intention of what I want to do in that day. So I'm very intentional.
Angelo, this has really been a gift. I appreciate having the opportunity to connect with you and you sharing about your journey. And I just, I really appreciate that opportunity that you're gifting that to our community.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Angelo. Have a great day. And to all of you, please be well.